The leather bill folder landed in front of me with a soft thud. I stared at it, then at Sebastian across the table. His arms were crossed, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The waiter stood beside me, patient but expectant. My heart hammered as I opened the folder. $378. More than my monthly rent. The restaurant buzzed around us. Crystal glasses clinking, low laughter, the smell of expensive wine. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, watching me like this was entertainment. I felt the heat creeping up my neck. This couldn't be right. He'd invited me. He'd insisted on this place. He'd ordered the wine, the appetizers, the entrees I couldn't even pronounce. My fingers trembled slightly as I touched the edge of the bill. Somewhere behind me, a woman laughed. It felt like she was laughing at me. Sebastian's smirk widened. "Something wrong, Iris?" he asked, his voice carrying just enough to reach nearby tables. I looked up at him, searching for the joke, the moment he'd pull out his wallet and say he was kidding. But his eyes were cold, calculating. This wasn't a mistake. Sebastian gestured lazily toward the bill. "I thought you'd want to contribute," he said, loud enough that the couple at the next table glanced over. Show some independence. You're always talking about standing on your own 2 feet. My throat tightened. Contribute. He'd ordered everything. The waiter shifted slightly, still waiting. I could feel eyes on me now. Curious, pitying, amused. Sebastian continued, his voice dripping with false concern. "I mean, you make decent money, right? At that little office job." Little. The word stung exactly as he intended. My hands felt clammy against the leather folder. I worked 40 hours a week as an administrative assistant. Paid my bills on time. I was proud of my small apartment, my reliable car, my quiet life. But sitting here, in this restaurant with white tablecloths and servers in pressed vests, I felt small. Sebastian hadn't even reached for his wallet. Hadn't made a move toward his pocket. He was just watching me squirm, arms still crossed, that awful smirk never leaving his face. "How would you like to pay, ma'am?" the waiter asked gently. I heard the sympathy in his voice. That made it worse. I remembered our 10th birthday party. Mom had baked 2 cakes, 1 chocolate for Sebastian, 1 vanilla for me. But when it was time to sing, everyone gathered around his cake. Mine sat forgotten on the kitchen counter. When I pointed it out, Mom had laughed and said, "Oh honey, we'll do yours later." Later never came. That memory surfaced now, sharp and clear. Sebastian had always won. Always been first. The favorite. The golden child who could do no wrong. When he crashed Dad's car at 16, they bought him a new one. When I asked to borrow money for textbooks, they suggested I get a job. When he dropped out of college, they called it finding himself. When I graduated with honors, they couldn't make the ceremony. Every achievement of his was celebrated. Every struggle of mine was a character-building opportunity. And I'd accepted it, swallowed it, told myself it didn't matter. But sitting here now, I realized something cold and clear. This dinner wasn't about reconnecting. It wasn't about family. This was theater. A performance where I was the punchline. And Sebastian had been planning this for days. "Actually," Sebastian said, reaching into his jacket with exaggerated slowness, "I think I forgot my wallet." He patted his pockets, feigning surprise. But I saw it. Just for a second. A flash of something in his eyes when the waiter didn't immediately walk away. Panic. Real genuine panic. It was so brief I almost missed it. Sebastian recovered quickly, laughing. "Can you believe it? Left it in my other jacket. Classic me." He looked at me expectantly. The waiter looked at me too. Everyone was looking at me. My purse sat in my lap, small and worn compared to Sebastian's designer everything. Inside was my debit card, my carefully managed checking account. Money I'd saved by eating leftovers and skipping coffee shops. $378 would hurt. It would hurt badly. But the alternative was sitting here, under these staring eyes, unable to pay. being the broke little sister who couldn't afford dinner. Exactly what Sebastian wanted everyone to see. "I can handle it," I heard myself say. The words tasted like ash. I handed my card to the waiter with shaking hands. He took it gently, mercifully, and disappeared. Sebastian leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Thanks, sis," he said, casual as anything. "I'll pay you back." We both knew he wouldn't. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Something had shifted inside me. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, clearer. I wasn't going to cry. Wasn't going to confront him here, in front of these strangers. I was going to watch. Remember. Learn. Under the table, Sebastian's phone screen glowed. He was texting rapidly, his thumb flying across the keyboard. His jaw was tight. Whatever he was writing, it wasn't casual. The waiter returned with my card and receipt. I signed it, added a generous tip because the waiter didn't deserve to suffer for this, and tucked the receipt into my purse. Evidence. Sebastian stood first, stretching like he'd just finished a pleasant meal. "Ready?" he asked. I stood too. Smoothed my dress. "Mile." "Ready," I said. But I wasn't ready to forgive. I was ready to pay attention. Outside, the autumn air was cold against my flushed cheeks. Sebastian walked toward his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than I'd make in 3 years. He paused at the driver's door, turning to me with that same condescending smile. "You know, Iris, you should really think about your ambition," he said. "I mean, I'm not trying to be harsh, but you're still renting. Still at that dead-end job. Still stuck." Each word was a carefully placed knife. I stood there, hands in my coat pockets, and nodded. Let him talk. Let him feel superior. "I just think you could be more," he continued. "If you applied yourself, made better choices, knew your place in the world." Knew my place. There it was. The real message. His phone rang. He answered it, turning slightly away. "Yeah, I'm here," he said into the phone, his voice suddenly tight. "I know. I just need more time. Another week, maybe 2. His hand clenched on the car door. I said I'm working on it. He hung up without saying goodbye. When he turned back to me, the smile was forced. Brittle. "Drive safe," he said. Then he was gone. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before starting the engine. My hands had stopped shaking, but my mind was racing. Something was wrong. The flashy car. The expensive restaurant. The constant need to prove he was better than me. Phone call. "I just need more time." Time for what? Money. I thought about the panic in his eyes when the waiter lingered. The way he'd texted so frantically under the table. The forced smile after that phone call. Sebastian had always been good at appearing wealthy. Designer clothes. Luxury cars. Exotic vacations he posted about constantly. But when was the last time I'd actually seen proof of success? A promotion. A new business venture that worked out. I drove home slowly, my mind cataloging details I'd ignored before. 3 months ago, he'd asked to borrow my login for a streaming service. 2 months ago, he'd cancelled on a family dinner last minute. Said something about a business emergency. Last month, Mom mentioned he'd asked her for money. Just a loan, she'd said. To help with cash flow. How much was he borrowing? And from whom? The next morning I called our cousin Felix. He worked in commercial real estate and knew everyone's business. "Hey, random question," I said, trying to sound casual. "How's Sebastian's company doing?" He mentioned expanding. Felix was quiet for a moment. "His company. Iris, he closed that down 6 months ago. Said it wasn't profitable." My stomach dropped. "Closed it?" "Yeah. Thought you knew." He told everyone he was pivoting to consulting, but Felix trailed off. "But what?" "I don't think he's consulting. I think he's scrambling. Word is he's got serious debt. Credit cards maxed out. He even hit up my brother for 10 grand last month. $10,000. Felt sick. Did he say what the money was for?" Felix laughed, but it wasn't amused. Told my brother it was for you actually. Said you were in a bad spot and too proud to ask for help yourself. The words hit me like a slap. He was using me. Using my name as an excuse to borrow money. Making me the charity case so he could maintain his image. Thanks, Felix, I managed. After I hung up, I sat on my couch, staring at nothing. How many people had he borrowed from using my name? I spent the weekend going through old messages. I found them buried in a family group chat from 8 months ago. Sebastian had written to our aunt. Iris is really struggling right now. I'm helping her out, but it's tough. She's too proud to admit she needs support. I'd never asked him for anything. Never been struggling. Our uncle had replied, "That's good of you taking care of your sister. Let me know if you need help." 3 days later, Sebastian had posted photos from a luxury resort in Miami. Kept digging. Found messages to family friends, distant cousins, even Dad's old business partner. All the same story. Iris needs help. I'm covering her expenses. It's a lot, but family comes first. And every time money followed. Thousands of dollars. Borrowed under the guise of helping me. While I scraped by on my actual salary. He was bleeding our family dry using my name as camouflage. I took screenshots of everything. Saved them in a folder labeled receipts. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady. Cold. 'Cause now I understood. The restaurant wasn't about humiliating me for fun. It was about maintaining the narrative. Keeping everyone convinced I was the failure and he was the savior. But saviors don't hand you the check. 2 weeks later my phone rang. Sebastian. "Hey sis," he said, his voice warm. Too warm. I felt bad about how dinner ended. "Let me make it up to you. Dinner this Friday. My treat. For real this time." I almost laughed. But I didn't. "Where?" "Yes. That Italian place downtown. Massimo's. You'll love it. Massimo's. Even more expensive than the last place." "Okay," I said. "But Sebastian, can we keep it small? Just us?" "Actually," he said, "I already invited a few people. Uncle Keith, Aunt Beatrice, Felix. Make it a real family thing. You know, reconnect." Of course he had an audience. He needed witnesses to his generosity. To see him pick up the tab, magnanimous and successful. Needed them to see me. Grateful lesser saved. "Sounds perfect," I said sweetly. "Can't wait." After I hung up, I opened my contacts. Started texting. Uncle Keith, Aunt Beatrice, Felix. But I also added Dad's business partner, our cousin who worked at the bank, and my childhood friend whose father was a lawyer. People Sebastian had borrowed from. People who believed his stories. "Sebastian's hosting a family dinner Friday at Massimo's," I wrote. "He'd love for you to come. 7 p.m. Friday arrived. I dressed carefully. Nothing too nice, nothing too shabby. I wanted to look exactly like myself. No costume. No performance. I arrived at Massimo's at 7 sharp. Sebastian was already there, holding court at a large table. He'd dressed like he was closing a business deal. Expensive suit, gold watch, leather shoes that probably cost more than my car payment. He hugged me when I arrived, a show for everyone watching. "There she is," he announced. "My little sister." Little. Always little. I smiled and took my seat. The table filled quickly. Uncle Keith and Aunt Beatrice. Felix and his girlfriend. Dad's business partner, looking confused about why he was here but polite. My friend's father, the lawyer. 11 people total. Sebastian ordered wine before anyone could look at prices. 2 bottles. Then appetizers, calamari bruschetta, a cheese board that cost $40. He was expansive, laughing, telling stories. Bragging about deals he'd closed, clients he'd won, opportunities he was considering. I watched faces around the table. Some impressed, some skeptical. Felix caught my eye once. He knew. The food came. Sebastian had pre-ordered for the table. Expensive entrees. Desserts. The bill would be catastrophic. Sebastian kept up his performance through dinner. He name-dropped, discussed market trends, mentioned his portfolio and investments like they were real things. I ate quietly watching the show. Around 9, the waiter approached with the bill. Sebastian made a big production of reaching for it. "My treat tonight, everyone," he announced. "Family is important." He opened the leather folder. I saw his face change, just slightly, a tightening around his eyes. He pulled out his credit card with a flourish, handed it to the waiter. We kept talking. 5 minutes passed. The waiter returned, leaning close to Sebastian, whispered something. Sebastian's neck flushed red. "Try this one," he said, handing over a different card. His voice was still confident, but his hands weren't steady. Another 5 minutes. The waiter came back, whispered again. "Declined," Sebastian said louder than he meant to. "That's impossible. There must be a mistake." People were staring now. The table had gone quiet. Sebastian fumbled for a third card. "This one definitely works," he said. But his voice had lost its certainty. The waiter disappeared again. Felix's girlfriend shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Keith frowned. I sat very still. The waiter returned. This time he didn't whisper. "I'm sorry, sir. This card was also declined. Do you have another form of payment?" Sebastian's face was crimson now. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I need to call my bank," he said. "This is ridiculous. I have plenty of money." But he didn't make a call. He just stared at his phone like it might offer an escape. "Sebastian," Aunt Beatrice said carefully. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," he snapped. "Everything's fine. The bank must have flagged my cards for fraud protection. It happens." Except it didn't. Not 3 times in a row. Not unless there was no money to authorize. "Sebastian," Uncle Keith said, his voice harder now. "What's going on? I thought you said money wasn't an issue." "It's not," Sebastian said. But the panic was fully visible now. The mask slipping. He looked around the table, desperate. His eyes landed on me. I saw the calculation. The same calculation from 2 weeks ago. He was going to do it again. Try to make me pay. Make me the failure who couldn't even cover her portion. But before he could speak, I pulled out my purse. Slowly. Deliberately. Every eye at the table followed my hands. "It's okay," I said quietly. "I've got it." I pulled out a credit card receipt. Not my card. Receipt. From 2 weeks ago. The restaurant where Sebastian had handed me the bill. I placed it on the table where everyone could see. $378. My signature at the bottom. "This was from the last dinner Sebastian invited me to," I said. My voice was calm. "Steady. He told me he forgot his wallet. Asked me to cover it. Said he'd pay me back." The table went silent. Sebastian's mouth opened. Closed. "Iris," he started. "I'm happy to pay for tonight too," I continued, pulling out my debit card. "But I think everyone should know that I already paid last time." And he never mentioned it. Actually, he told everyone here that I'm the one struggling. That he's been helping me financially. I looked at Uncle Keith. "Did he borrow money from you?" "Said it was for me." Keith's face darkened. $10,000. 3 months ago. I looked at Beatrice. "You too." She nodded slowly. 1,500. He said you needed help with medical bills. I didn't have medical bills. I hadn't been to a doctor in 2 years. "I've never asked Sebastian for money," I said. "Not once." Felix leaned forward. "He told my brother you were in trouble. Borrowed 10 grand saying it was for you." Dad's business partner shifted in his seat. "He hit me up for 5,000. Said you'd lost your job and were too embarrassed to tell the family." The table erupted. Not in yelling but in stunned realization. Pieces clicking together. Aunt Beatrice's hand covered her mouth. Uncle Keith's jaw was clenched. The lawyer, my friend's father, was taking mental notes, his eyes sharp. Sebastian sat frozen, his face white now instead of red. I never lost my job, I said quietly. I've been working at the same company for 4 years. Got promoted twice. Pay my rent on time. Have savings. I'm not struggling. Pulled out my phone. Opened the folder of screenshots. But Sebastian has been telling everyone I am. Using my name to borrow money. Then spending it on cars and restaurants and vacations while making me look like a charity case. I handed my phone to Uncle Keith. He scrolled through the messages. His expression turned to stone. He passed the phone to Beatrice. Then to Felix. It made its way around the table. When it reached Sebastian, he didn't take it. I can explain, he said. Explain what? Uncle Keith's voice was cold. Explain how you've been lying to your family. Using your sister's name to con us out of money. I wasn't conning anyone, Sebastian said, his voice rising. I've been going through a rough patch. I needed help. I was going to pay everyone back. By humiliating your sister, Beatrice snapped. By making her pay for dinners you invited her to? That's not. Sebastian looked around the table, searching for an ally. Found none. You don't understand. I built an image. A reputation. I couldn't just admit I was failing. People respect success. So you made Iris look like the failure instead? Felix said. His voice was disgusted. She's the only one at this table who's been honest. She works hard. Pays her bills. Doesn't pretend to be something she's not. Sebastian's hands were shaking. I'm your family. You're supposed to support me. Iris turned you all against me. No, I said quietly. You did that yourself. Sebastian stood abruptly, his chair scraping loud against the floor. This is betrayal, he hissed at me. I'm your brother. You handed me a check, I said. In front of strangers. After spending my rent money. Using my name to steal from our family. What do you call that? Sebastian's face contorted. I never stole anything. Borrowed. There's a difference. Borrowing requires intent to repay, the lawyer said mildly. And honesty about what the money is for. What you did is called fraud. The word hung in the air. Heavy. Legal. Sebastian's eyes went wide. I didn't commit fraud. I wouldn't. You obtained money under false pretenses, the lawyer continued. Repeatedly. Using your sister's fabricated financial crisis as the premise. That's textbook fraud. I'm not pressing charges, Uncle Keith said. But I want every penny back. With interest. Same, said Beatrice. Me too, Felix added. One by one, everyone who'd loaned Sebastian money spoke up. The total was staggering. Over $50,000. Sebastian sank back into his chair. I don't have it, he whispered. I know, I said. Neither did I when you made me pay for dinner. But you didn't care then. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something crack behind his eyes. The realization that this wasn't going away. That the performance was over. How could you do this? He asked. To me. The irony was suffocating. I didn't do anything, I said. I just stopped protecting you from the truth. He stood again, knocking the table. Water glasses wobbled. You'll regret this, he said. Then he walked out. No one stopped him. The waiter appeared, hesitant. About the bill. I handed him my card. I've got it, I said. Add 20% tip. After I paid, the table slowly dispersed. But before everyone left, they came to me. Uncle Keith first. Iris, I owe you an apology. I should have asked you directly instead of believing Sebastian. Me too, Beatrice said. I feel like a fool. One by one they apologized. Some embarrassed. Some angry at themselves. Felix hugged me. You handled that better than he deserved, he said. Dad's business partner pulled me aside. If you need anything, a reference, a connection, anything, you call me. I mean it. The lawyer handed me his card. If Sebastian retaliates or harasses you, Call me immediately. What he did is actionable. I drove home in silence. My phone started buzzing around midnight. Texts from family members I hadn't seen at dinner. Word was spreading. People asking if it was true. Offering support. Sharing their own stories of Sebastian's lies. My phone didn't stop buzzing for hours. I turned it off and sat in the dark, feeling strange. Not triumphant. Not vindicated. Just tired. And lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down. Sebastian didn't contact me for 3 days. Then, at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Iris. His voice was ragged. I need your help. Waited. Everyone's demanding repayment at once. I'm going to lose everything. Cars being repossessed. I'm being evicted. I need you to talk to them. Tell them I'm good for it. That I just need time. Why would I do that? Asked. Because I'm your brother. You were my brother when you handed me that check, I said. When you lied about me to our family. When you made me look pathetic so you could look generous. I'm sorry, he said. The words sounded foreign in his mouth. I'm sorry, okay? Messed up. But you can fix this. You can tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. You lied. Repeatedly. Deliberately. Please. His voice cracked. I'm desperate here. I know what desperate feels like, I said. I felt it when the waiter handed me that check. When I had to choose between paying for your performance and being humiliated in public. You didn't care about me being desperate then. Silence. Iris. I'm not fixing this for you, I said. You created this situation. You solve it. Hung up. He texted the next day. Long rambling messages. Some apologetic. Some angry. Some blaming me for ruining his life. I read them all. Responded to none. Days passed. Then weeks. Sebastian's social media went quiet. No more photos of expensive dinners or luxury cars. No more humble brags about success. His last post was from the resort in Miami. 3 months ago. Paid for with money borrowed in my name. Uncle Keith called to update me. He tried to get another loan from his ex-girlfriend's father. Used the same story. Said you were sick and he needed money for treatment. Closed my eyes. What happened? The guy called me to verify. I told him the truth. He hung up on Sebastian. The lies were catching up. Doors closing. Every bridge burned. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the smirk. The casual cruelty. The years of being made to feel less than. The sympathy evaporated. Thank you for telling me, I said. Iris. Keith's voice was gentle. You did the right thing. I know, I said. And I did. This wasn't revenge. Revenge would have been public humiliation. Calling him out in the restaurant before he could flounder. Making him pay. Instead, I'd simply let him reveal himself. Given him rope. Step back. The consequences were his own doing. 2 months after the dinner, I ran into someone who knew Sebastian. She stopped me in the grocery store. I heard about your brother, she said, voice hushed. Is it true? Is what true? That he's broke. That he lost everything. That he's been lying about his success for years. I could have defended him. Could have softened the blow. Protected his reputation one last time. Instead I said, yes. It's true. Her eyes widened. She'd expected denial. Expected me to make excuses. Wow, she said. I never would have guessed. He always seemed so put together. Seemed, I repeated. That's the key word. She left and I finished my shopping. On the way home I thought about the old Iris. The one who would have lied to protect Sebastian. Who would have made herself smaller so he could feel bigger. Who would have paid that check and never mentioned it. That Iris was gone. In her place was someone who understood her own worth. Who knew that protecting someone from consequences wasn't kindness. It was enabling. Who had finally learned to stand up for herself. Not by screaming or fighting. but by simply refusing to participate in the lie anymore. Sebastian's reputation unraveled because it was built on sand. I didn't destroy it. I just stopped propping it up. I spent a quiet evening going through old photos, pictures from childhood, birthdays, holidays, family gatherings. In every single one I was smiling. But it was a small smile, careful smile. The smile of someone who'd learned not to take up too much space. Who'd been taught that her achievements mattered less. That her struggles were character building while his were tragedies. That she should be grateful for crumbs while he deserved the feast. I looked at my reflection in the window. The woman staring back at me wasn't smiling that careful smile anymore. She looked tired. But she also looked strong. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my hurt. All the times I'd made excuses for Sebastian's behavior. All the times I'd convinced myself that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself. And I forgave myself. For not seeing sooner. For accepting less than I deserved. For believing the lie that I was somehow less valuable than my brother. I forgave myself for surviving the only way I knew how. By being quiet. By being accommodating. By being small. But I wasn't going to be small anymore. Not for Sebastian. Not for anyone. That chapter was closed. And I'd written the ending myself. 3 months later Sebastian called. Not at 2 a.m. Not desperate. Just tired. Can we meet? He asked. Thought about saying no. Thought about closing that door permanently. But curiosity won again. We met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Public. He looked different. Thinner. The expensive clothes replaced with normal ones. The watch gone. When he sat down he didn't smirk. Didn't perform. Just looked at me. I'm not here to ask for anything, he said. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Waited. I know I destroyed your trust. I know I hurt you. I know I used you. He swallowed hard. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix it. Doesn't undo what I did. No, I agreed. It doesn't. I've been seeing a therapist, he continued. Trying to figure out why I did it. Why I needed everyone to think I was successful so badly that I'd lie. That I'd hurt you. Did you figure it out? He laughed, but it was hollow. Sort of. Dad always made me feel like I had to be perfect. Had to be the best. And when I couldn't be, I just faked it. That's not an excuse, I said. I know. We sat in silence. I don't forgive you, I said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He nodded. I understand. But I want you to know something, I continued. You didn't embarrass me. Not really. Sebastian looked up. Confused. You embarrassed yourself, I said. You thought handing me that check would make you look powerful. Would put me in my place. But all it did was show everyone who you really are. I leaned forward. I paid that bill with money I earned honestly. Money I'm proud of. You tried to pay with borrowed money and lies. With a reputation you hadn't earned. And when that card declined, everyone saw the truth. I know, he whispered. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I was. But anger is exhausting. What I feel now is free. Free. Free from caring what you think of me. Free from trying to earn approval I was never going to get. Free from making myself smaller so you could feel bigger. Understood. Sebastian looked up at me, something like regret in his eyes. For what it's worth, he said. You were never small. I just needed you to believe you were so I didn't have to face how small I felt. It was probably the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. I know, I said. Then I walked away. Not angry. Not vindictive. Just done. I didn't look back. 6 months passed. I got a promotion at work. Moved into a nicer apartment. Started dating someone who respected me. Built a life I was genuinely proud of. Sebastian and I didn't talk. Maybe we would someday. Maybe we wouldn't. It didn't matter. My worth wasn't tied to his opinion anymore. I saw him once from a distance. At a family gathering I'd been hesitant to attend. He stayed on the opposite side of the room. We didn't acknowledge each other. But I noticed he was listening when I talked. Actually listening. Not waiting to speak. Not calculating how to one-up me. Just listening. Maybe he was changing. Maybe he wasn't. Either way, it wasn't my responsibility. I'd spent years trying to manage his image, absorb his cruelty, excuse his behavior. That weight was his to carry now. Not mine. I drove home that night thinking about the girl in those old photos. The one with the careful smile. I wondered what she'd think of me now. I think she'd be proud. Not because I destroyed Sebastian, but because I finally learned that the most expensive thing anyone can demand from you is your self-respect. And the moment I stopped paying that price was the moment I became free. The most expensive thing Sebastian ever ordered was my silence. But I wasn't on the menu anymore.